Hey, come on over, have some fun with Crazy Taxi! Yeah, 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 yeah! Day after day.
Wait, that's how you know you're about to have fun. He's a loud little guy. Okay. Well, I humored you all by being part of your, miserable timeline. But we're gonna go, back to 2019. The good timeline. Sure. Oh boy, I better turn the volume down on this game before it's probably gonna get copyright claimed anyway. Because look what it is. Yeah. Well, whether it gets claimed or not, I guess, yeah, we're here to have fun. So, yeah. Although, those of you who have been watching me long enough know that I do indulge in some self-deprecating humor. So I will still occasionally chide myself for my bad decisions made as a kid when it comes to video game purchases or other decisions made with my money. But, you know, on 9/9/99, I was 12. And I was an idiot. I mean, really most kids are. Pretty much all kids are. Like, even if they're, like, really sharp and book smart and are good at memorizing stuff, and maybe they're quick-witted and well-spoken for their age, it's like, yeah, you're still an idiot when you're a kid, and it's fine. Wisdom is more important than raw intelligence. Intelligence is important. We could use more of that in the timeline you all are in, 2025, the bad one. But wisdom. Wisdom is very important. So, yeah, the point is to celebrate the love of the Dreamcast. Like, although I did play it at launch time at EB Games, I didn't buy one. I could only afford one game system, and I was saving for a PS2. I was stuck in that, what I now know is like a capitalistic mentality of like, well, you gotta go with who's gonna win, and what's gonna be the best investment for your money. It's like, you know, that can have some validity to a point, but really it should just be about what's going to be the most fun? What's going to bring the most joy to your life? And really, as far as investments go, it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, the PlayStation 2 outsold all of its direct competitors and was supported for longer than any of its contemporaries, but who cares? I mean, I enjoyed my time with it, and I ended up getting another one later on for the retro rig, but I mean, how has the Dreamcast ever been a bad investment? Like, yeah, you know, Sega made a lot of really terrible business decisions, and they paid for it. Like, the people running the show, they paid for it, and, you know, fortunately, the company was able to survive in a different form. You know, now they're almost entirely a software maker, and, you know, the video game hobby is worse off for not having Sega there as a hardware maker, and I'm not talking just about home game consoles, but, you know, handheld systems, but especially arcades. They didn't completely get out of the arcade business, even when that part of the hobby pretty much died, but You know, not having like Sega controllers and steering wheels and arcade sticks, it's like, yeah, we're worse off for it. Or they're wild and fun, batshit crazy things like the maracas for Samba de Amigo, the microphone interaction in Seaman, the fishing rod for Sega Bass Fishing. Like, I mean, you know, other systems have had those kind of controllers, but you know, year and a half on the market and all this wild and crazy stuff for the Dreamcast, and it had a library, an officially licensed library about as big as the N64, I believe. To say nothing of the incredible wealth of independent releases since the system's demise on the retail market. Come on. Yeah, I'm done having regrets, because, you know, even while being chronologically displaced here in the spaceship of imagination, still can't change the past of the timeline I came from. But I can be grateful that I still get to enjoy Dreamcast and its wonderful, eclectic, creative, wild selection of games. Its awesome controller. I'm an apologist for this controller. I realize it has its shortcomings. I know it's easy to make fun of the lack of a second analog stick, and it does kind of suck that it's 2 buttons short of what the Saturn had. But you also gotta think, this was being prototyped as early as, like, 1997. The games industry was way different. Even on the PlayStation with the DualShock, like, a lot of its biggest games didn't even use the right analog stick at all. So, different times. Had the Dreamcast had a chance to have a normal lifespan, I'm quite confident Sega would have done a revision of the controller. But, yeah. There's no point in living in regrets, and, you know, we can reminisce, and, you know, we can chat and about what-ifs, and hypothesize about, well, you know, if Sega did this or this, would their fate have been different? It's like, so many things would have to have been different, and some of it wasn't in their control, you know, outside of the boneheaded moves that some of the people in charge made. Like, you know, the arcade scene died out way faster than I think anyone ever anticipated, and the Dreamcast was, like, just about at that tipping point where most home game systems shift from the initial loss toward profit. It just wasn't quite there yet, and Sega, the backbone of their business was the arcade. They were also supporting the PC market, Piracy Central. Oh, I'm sorry, personal computer market. Unlike Sony and Nintendo, a lot of would-be video game historians and pundits love to just forget that the arcade scene ever existed, or that it was, you know, the technical standard bearer for the entire hobby for decades. And they also like to completely overlook the home computer market. Yeah. It's all part of the hobby. It's all relevant. And the Dreamcast didn't kill Sega. A lot of things killed Sega as a home hardware manufacturer. At least in the bad timeline. In the good timeline, different story. The Dreamcast annihilated, and its successor, well, let's just say, the next planet we found may have been named after it. Who can say? But, yeah, I'm just basking in love for the Dreamcast and everything it represents. It's like one of the best representations of the late 90s, you know, Y2K, the new millennium, and all the hope we had for the future. That brief period of time when the internet was actually on the cusp of being the thing it was promised, you know, the information superhighway. It was the virtual Great Library of Alexandria, but it was a tool, a useful and fun tool It hadn't taken over our lives, and it had not become the backbone of all civilization. I think that's where the bad timeline and the good timeline were a little closer together, and clearly after the turn of the millennium, they wildly diverged. But even now, 26 years later, except for our friends in PAL territories, next month from this recording, you get to celebrate 26 years of Dreamcast Blue Swirls. Because remember, the world does not revolve around the United States of America. 99.99 doesn't matter as much in other regions. But I do think it's worth celebrating as one of Sega's last great victories as a home hardware manufacturer. But yeah, even now, this little guy, it's like, represents the best of what the new millennium promised. The hopeful, optimistic, clean, and sleek future we were supposed to be headed toward. You know, the interesting ways that technology and human beings were going to interact. Yeah, it still manages to embody that. And the wonderful retro gaming community, aside from providing a bevy of wonderful independent releases for the system, has also resurrected many of its online capabilities. You can still use the SEGA Dreamcast web browser. Probably better off than certain modern solutions from certain companies. And you can still play a lot of its online multiplayer games online. It's remarkable. Let's start some conversations in the comments. Let's just celebrate our love for the machine. Like, even though it's a mass-manufactured product, like, it still manages to encapsulate so much personality and character, and still manages to just embody so much of the people who designed it. I just love it. And the VMU and the games, all the accessories, just the off-the-wall, batshit crazy, take every risk, idea that exists on this platform. I love it. And, I'm grateful that, I still get to experience it. And, yeah, it would have been nice to have been there on the ground floor as far as, like, it was easier to find copies of certain games. Would have been cheaper in some instances. Although collecting for the Dreamcast is actually pretty cheap, it's just that there's certain few games that are like, whoa, it's those games. But also, I've mentioned before that it would have been nice to experience some games without having accidentally come across spoilers on the internet or, in different retrospectives and all of that. But nonetheless, I'm grateful. Going forward, I'm going to try to give my younger self some more grace. Like, there's just a lot of shit we didn't know. And that's okay. And, when you're used to being beholden to, begging, as kids do, to get the occasional gifts, which I'm grateful that I was in a situation where, sometimes that was the worst of my problems, at least at that age. Once I entered the teenage years, that's when shit really hit the fan, but that's a whole other story. But having that first taste of your own buying power can make you a little extra stupid. When you're too young and not wise enough to realize, like, hey, just because you're not using something or haven't used it for a while doesn't mean you have to get rid of it. Like, it's okay Just store it for a while, then come back to it. Instead of like, oh, I desperately need trade fodder because I've got to have this thing right now. But then what if you want the thing you traded in later? Learn that lesson the hard way. Whoops. But yeah, we're not going to wallow in that. Aside from making the occasional self-deprecating joke, we're not going to wallow in that. So, I'm going to go back to the good timeline, because I can only take so much the one you all are stuck in. So, the VMUs and I, here on the Spaceship of Imagination, we will all see you in Retro Lunacy 2019. So, much loves, and we'll see you.